I want to change my dog. I love my dog, Nia, but I desperately want her to change. This is going to be a different kind of video. You won't see any fancy graphics. Maybe I'll have our editor put in some shots of us and Nia here and there, but by and large, we're just going to talk. Nia is the reason that I started my business. She's the reason that I'm a dog trainer at all. She started all of it for me. I brought Nia home back in 2018. This was back before I was a trainer. I'd had family dogs when I was a kid, but this was the first time that Eric and I would be raising a dog now that we were adults. We found her on a Craigslist ad, of all things, and when we went to meet her, the family that had her warned us, she's kind of a lot all at once, but she's really a sweetheart once you get to know her. Are you ready? And when they let her out of the upstairs bedroom, she tore down the stairs and immediately wanted to eat us. Barking, snarling, this was not a friendly dog. I don't know what came over us, but Eric and I, without looking at each other or saying anything to each other, just sat down on the floor. I don't know how it happened exactly, but within maybe 2 minutes, Nia had not only calmed down, but had literally melted into us. Believe me when I tell you that I have not seen a dog before or since in all of my work melt into somebody like Nia loves to do. When you're in her circle, she loves nothing better than a good snuggle. A few minutes later, we took her for a walk around the block, and it was absolutely horrid. She was pulling at the end of her short leash, lifting herself off the ground from the pressure and barking at everything she could see or sense. There was a woman across the street bringing in her groceries from the car, and she completely lost it. Barking, lunging, foaming at the mouth, trying to get to her. You'd think she wanted to kill her by the sound of it. Think 90 pounds of German Shepherd on steroids in a 35-pound miniature Australian Shepherd body, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what she sounded like. We said thank you very much to the family and let them know that we'd be also checking out the shelter in the area and that we'd be in touch if we were interested. We went to the shelter and played a few rounds of catch with this dog named Shrek, but we just couldn't get Nia out of our heads. The way that she melted into us and how sweet she was once she warmed up to us. After going to the shelter, we turned around and we went right back to see her that same night. After chatting with the family a bit more and getting some history of her time with them, we decided to adopt her. We thought 30 days of some basic obedience work and she'll be good as new. Able to go on walks with us, she'll go to our favorite parks, we'd teach her how to play frisbee, and she'd be able to do all the stuff we wanted her to be able to do, and we'd be two really cool people in our 20s with a rad dog. We wanted to change Nia. We very quickly, in at least 2 months' time, learned that this was going to take more than a month to fix. In our first couple of weeks with her, we decided to try to take her to our downtown area, which is only about a 2-block by 3-block area, to see if she could handle other dogs and people. Now, we were smart about it. We parked several blocks away and walked her through the adjacent park so that we could ease her into the area. Needless to say, we never made it downtown. That walk was an hour-long excursion where we dodged people and other dogs trying to give her enough distance from them, but ultimately getting cornered before ducking down into alleyways and behind buildings. At one point, she even got close enough to jump at someone's face, and we ran away as they cursed at us for it. Thankfully, she didn't bite them or make contact, but we still felt absolutely terrible about it. After being out for double the time we wanted to, we finally found a route that allowed us to circle back to the car while dodging people and other dogs. We were safe. This is when we started to get an idea of just how intense Nia's behaviors really were. It was getting more important and urgent that we needed to change Nia, especially if she was ever going to be the dog that we wanted her to be. It was at this point that we turned here, to YouTube. There's no need to go into detail here, but I did some things in the name of training that I'm not proud of based on the advice that I received here. What I didn't know at the time, but I do now, is that dog training is not just dog training. There are very different styles of training, many old and outdated, that are still alive and well in the industry today that rely on force, punishment, and intimidation. Hi, future Erica here. I can tell you confidently that using force and punishment in your training is wholly unnecessary and, in fact, comes with a whole host of risks and nasty side effects that I don't see being disclosed when these training methods are recommended. I wouldn't feel comfortable using those training methods with any of my clients and don't use them in any of my training today. Simply, when you know better, you do better. So punishment was out. I can't describe for you the gut-sinking feeling that I got when I used some of those harsher methods with Nia, and on top of that, they didn't even work. Okay, so back to the drawing board. The University of YouTube route didn't work. Either the puppy program info we found didn't get at the severity of the issues that we were seeing from her, or the content we found to address reactivity was all force and punishment based. No, thank you. We were gonna have to bring in the big guns. We needed to pay for training. If Nia was going to change for us, we were going to need to have a professional do it with us. We then hired a local trainer in our area. We paid our non-refundable training package fee, and we were eager to get started. In between our payment and the new client orientation, we got Nia spayed. We happily told the vet tech that we were starting training and who we would be working with. The color drained from her face, and she urged us not to go forward with training. Looking back, I wish that she would have given us more info to go off of, but we did our due diligence after that. We called the trainer and asked why someone would say that. We called the trainer's reference, who were veterinarians in town. Everything still seemed to come up green and no red flags. We attended the orientation and we were provided with a book of rules. We were told, follow these rules and your dog will learn that you are the pack leaders and they will finally respect you. Hi, future Erica here again. Just have to say, that's not how it works. Okay, carry on. We were supposed to do seemingly trivial things like eat before them and go outside before them. And if we didn't do that, they could go out without us. It was all based on the idea that if your dog was obedient to you, then all of their other behaviors would fall in line. Which, at the time, didn't make a ton of sense to us because Nia was excellent inside. Without triggers present, she was a dream. We were doing tricks with her, having her jump off of our back and through hoops, and she was truly incredible and a fast learner to boot. We would later come to learn that this was just repackaged alpha dominance-based training. Our in-person session with our trainer wasn't much better. Nia simply would not come down under threshold. Our hours-long session was filled with barking, a stressed-out dog, and a couple of lunges at the face. This was obviously not working. Needless to say, we didn't stick with that training plan for very long. As soon as the trainer said that I couldn't pet my dog when Nia asked me for pets, I said, I'm out. Well, this sucks. I'd found several training methods that I didn't feel comfortable with and that also didn't work. Maybe Nia was just beyond our help. Maybe she couldn't be changed. I didn't want to think about that for too long, so I did what I do best and I researched online. By now, I had learned the terms to avoid, the kinds of training I didn't like. Balanced training seemed to refer to trainers using rewards and punishment in their training, but the only videos I could find of balanced trainers online were using training tools like shock collars and prong collars, and I knew I didn't want to do that. I learned that these alpha-based strategies relied on dominance and intimidation, and I knew I didn't want to do that. By now, we were starting to get the idea that Nia was special. Maybe she needed an approach that was more tailored for her. Through my research, I found a style of training for reactive dogs called Behavioral Adjustment Training, or BAT for short. Developed by Grisha Stewart, it took into account the dog's experience in the training, and it was our responsibility to shape the world around our dog. In short, I needed to change for my dog. Wow, this was literally life-changing. Instead of forcing my dog into one situation or another, it was on me to only put Nia in situations that she could handle. I read that book cover to cover. At the time, I didn't understand all of it, but I knew enough. I knew that this was an entirely different type of training. It didn't require Nia to toe to some arbitrary standard that I had set for her, but instead for me to work with her to build her skills from the bottom up. Hey, baby. Come here. Come on. You come up. Yeah, it's my girl. And cookie. Yep. Okay. Luckily, in our area, we had one trainer who was certified in this method, and we decided to go for it. From the very first session, we could tell that this was different. Our trainer cared whether or not Nia was barking and lunging at them, and they took steps to alleviate her stress. They were responsive to her needs and were committed to giving her what she needed to be successful. The training wasn't too fast, it wasn't formulaic, and it was wrapped around Nia and her well-being as the top priority in every session. Please don't misunderstand me. It was not easy. Some days it's still not easy, but it was the start of a new way of thinking that fell in line with my deeply held ethics and values. Values that I've held since I was a kid and had my very first interactions with other animals. We worked for months with that trainer. After each session, Eric and I would make the drive home brimming with new ideas and connections, trying to make sense of Nia's boundaries and limits and how we could work with her instead of against her, and all the space she needed to be comfortable. Right under our very own noses, we were starting to change. This work led me to become the trainer that I am today. One that is still growing and changing and learning more, but someone who has helped hundreds of dogs with the very same issues that Nia had struggled with for years. And that's where the fairy tale version of this story ends. But this isn't a fairy tale. This is real life, and I still had more to learn, and at great cost to me and to Nia. Fast forward several years, and I'm now a certified trainer. I had gone to school, completed my program, and assisted with group classes and done shelter work. I launched my business and I started taking my own private clients. I was like a real certified dog trainer. Nia had made tremendous progress too. We were coming to better understand what she needed from us. We ditched the neighborhood walks in favor of outings to remote hikes without dogs or people. We consulted with a vet to get her on a daily behavioral medication that allowed us to open up a larger window for training and learning. We even adopted another dog. Things were going great. One weekend, a trainer from out of town came in, and he was hosted by the trainer we had worked with in the past. This trainer had hosted several educational sessions throughout the weekend to dog guardians in the area. I couldn't attend because that was back when I was working 6 days a week, but I was stoked when I was invited to bring Nia for a one-on-one session with them. Wow, what an honor. Then that little voice came back. You can change, Nia. Then that little voice came back again. You can change, Nia. This trainer was using a scientifically based approach with new applications from recent neuroscience research to build a strong bond with your dog. They came highly regarded from my mentor trainer and other people I respect in the industry here. Everyone who attended their info sessions loved what they had to say. This was going to be the missing piece for Nia. It was a disaster. I can tell you confidently that this was by far the worst training experience that I have ever put Nia through. She barked the entire time we were there. The trainer wouldn't back off. Anytime that I tried to step in or advocate for Nia, I was shouted off by the trainer. Another professional, who Nia loves, was there to observe the session and watched in horror as Nia grew more and more agitated, egged on by this so-called professional. By the end of it, Nia tried to bite them, and the session still kept going. You put your trust in people, you think that they have a plan and that everything's going to be okay. When confronted with a traumatic situation, some people fight back, others turn tail and flee. I just froze. I stood there, yelled at over and over by the trainer to not intervene while I watched Nia live out her worst fears. I failed her that day. I know that I don't shoulder all of the blame for what happened that day, but I do need to carry some of it. Nia has long recovered from that day, but now, several years past that, I use it for motivation. That day, I learned the importance of advocating for your dog. I learned that no one holds the keys to her success other than me and her. Nia doesn't need to change on my account. Several months on from that incident, we found ourselves doing an assessment with another dog. We were growing closer with another trainer friend of ours, and she asked if we might be interested in doing a session with Nia and another dog. We set it up with 2 layers of safety so no one would get hurt or have access to each other, but by and large, we let Nia and this other dog do their thing. Surprise, surprise, it didn't go well. Nia wouldn't calm down after several minutes, and we called the session at that point. We separated the dogs and stayed to chat for a bit with that trainer. They said something that still sticks with me to this day. Erica, when do you look at a painting and say that it's done? It is such a profound statement in plain packaging. When do you look at a painting and say that it's done? By this, I took it to mean, when is enough enough? With all of the work that I had done with Nia, when it was time to put down the paintbrush, hang up the treat pouch, and say, I'm done with her reactivity goals. At this point, Nia had given us years of heartache. She had been a struggle to train. There were walls that we would smash through in her training just to hit another plateau in another month or two. It had been an intensely frustrating process up to this point. But more presently, and even more importantly, raising Nia has been one of the biggest joys of my life. She gets so much joy out of our working together, never gives up, is always willing to work just a little bit longer, and you cannot keep her down. She has a zest for life that puts most humans to shame. In all ways, and at the same time, Nia is both challenging and truly incredible. And sitting here today, I wouldn't change anything about her if given the chance. So what do I want you to take away from this? In this age of social media, clapbacks, and gotchas, it would be reasonable for you to want to find out all of the trainers I've talked about that have made our journey with Nia harder and more difficult, and to blast them online and take them down. If that's what you want to do, you've missed the point I'm trying to make. And for legal reasons, I'm saying to you now, do not harass anyone online. That part of my story and Nia's story is vital to where we are today. It is in spite of them, not because of them, that Nia is doing well and she's living her best life. However, I do want you to understand that working with a professional is hard. It's difficult to vet them, hard to really understand what they're saying, and even when you put your trust in them, their actions can differ from your expectation of what you came here to do. The training industry is rife with half-truths and missing conversations about how the training works in an effort to make you okay with doing things that can be harmful to your dog. The only response I have to that is trust your gut. Do your best to understand where your trainer is coming from and how they work, but if at any point you feel uncomfortable with what someone puts on your dog or what they're asking you to do to your dog, stop. Reassess. Trust that you know what is best for your dog. 10 out of 10 times, your dog's welfare matters. Advocate for your dog and speak loudly when something doesn't feel right. Your dog will thank you. But that's about other people. There's a teaching for you here as well. What are you currently asking for from your dog? Do you need them to change? Must they become something else in order for them to fit into your life? Or can you see them as a complex emotional being with needs and desires and preferences and quirks, just like the rest of us? Can you support them in becoming the best version of themselves instead of someone else entirely? What would it look like for you to try out this approach? How could your relationship with your dog improve as a result? And what could change within you to foster a more supportive, compassionate, and loving outlook? I invite you to discover that for yourself.